Hey there everyone, my name is Jakejames Lugo, and welcome to the channel, where you'll find some of the most fair and honest game reviews out here. Now, I'm a big anime fan like most of you out there, and you can't talk about anime without mentioning Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. It's literally one of the biggest, most popular anime series out there, period. So naturally, there's been so many video games based on this series for various different platforms, and one of the best ones was actually on the Game Boy Advance, according to some people. We're talking about the Legacy of Goku II, an action RPG for the GBA. Now, I played this a couple times, I know many of you have as well, but do we really think that this game was good? Do our memories serve us correct? Let's find out. Dragon Ball Z: The Legacy of Goku II is the second major RPG based on the later seasons of the anime for the Game Boy Advance. The original Legacy of Goku doesn't get a lot of attention, mostly because it's terrible in comparison. So what's the deal with The Legacy of Goku II? The game takes place at the middle of Season 4 to the end of Season 6 of the anime series. It covers the events of the Android Saga and the entirety of the Cell Saga. You pretty much know what to expect in here. Luckily, there are a few curveballs thrown in, including content from the DBZ movies with the villain Cooler, Frieza's brother. Visually, the game looks great, giving an almost chibi-style presentation, similar to what you would find with JRPGs. All of your favorite Z fighters are here: Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta, and Trunks. Each of them are playable at some point with their own special attacks. So does that mean that this game does justice to the anime? Yeah, it does, which is a lot more that could be said for other DBZ games. So as far as the story is concerned, it's pretty much beat for beat of what you got in the anime and the manga. There's not really much that's different or things that are changed too much. You can maybe say they got rid of a little bit of filler from the actual story of those mediums, but in the game, everything pretty much is one for one. All that stuff translated beautifully into the game. And speaking of which, one thing that I feel like is awesome in here, that really translated fantastically from the anime, is the music. The Bruce Falconeer music is Dragon Ball Z to me. Like, that music is iconic. Any sort of piece of music, once you start hearing it, you immediately think of DBZ, especially whether it's Vegeta's theme or the Super Saiyan theme or anything from like the background and the stages as you're moving around. They're tied to specific moments from the anime. This stuff is iconic. It sounds fantastic. Even in its 16 or 32-bit form compared to the original like soundtrack, it just sounds awesome. It works fantastic for a game like this. But besides all of that, as far as characters are concerned, you pretty much have everybody from the series in this game. All the characters that you could play as are the Z fighters, with the exception of a few that you can't play as Tien, Krillin, or Yamcha, which is kind of disappointing. It would have been nice to at least have them as options, but you get to play as Vegeta, Goku, Trunks, Gohan, Piccolo, all the main players for the Cell Saga. That pretty much makes sense. The Cell and Android Saga, really, but all those characters that you're using in combat, that totally makes sense here. And speaking of, let's talk about the gameplay, because there's a lot of interesting things in here that, for a GBA game, are surprisingly good. On the Game Boy Advance, the Legacy of Goku II plays like a very simple action RPG. Your physical and energy attacks are mapped to the buttons, and you move around battling enemies within each area. Battles can get very repetitive, but that doesn't mean that they're bad. I'll admit though, it does look goofy when you hit someone and they slide behind you to avoid getting locked into a corner. That happens a lot with some of the boss battles. You gain XP from defeating enemies, with new attacks opening up as you progress through the story and level up. All of this works out pretty great. The big hurdle is that everyone eventually has to overcome the difficulty spikes. At some point, you'll need to grind with each character to get everyone on the same level. EXP is given to one character at a time, so if you forget to use Gohan for a long period, then be prepared to grind levels with him later on. Speaking of which, the later portion of the game forces you to use every character in some way. Everybody gets their moment to shine, but if they're underleveled, you'll have a very hard time. The final battle with Cell is a gauntlet of battles against the Cell Juniors and fighting Cell himself with Gohan. If you lose any fight, you'll have to restart from the beginning. Stuff like that is pretty bad, because it gets frustrating when you realize you're not leveled up midway through. If there were checkpoints placed in between the battles, then there'd be no issue. Other moments within the game are a lot more forgiving though, provided you saved at a good spot beforehand. Now what about the exploration though? Outside of the main story, you get to explore the Dragon Ball world and see many things that fans will appreciate. Some quests have you fetching items, searching for missing Namex, and fighting groups of enemies. Within that are many inside jokes that Dragon Ball fans will get, especially if you've watched the series for a long time since the original Dragon Ball anime. A cool moment in the game is when you have to travel around the map searching for the Dragon Balls. You'll visit every location all over the map, which is surprisingly big. Something really cool is the optional encounters that you find, including one with Cooler. It's a neat addition that you don't have to complete, but it leads to a cool battle. All of this side content might feel tedious at times, but it's definitely not lackluster. When it comes to leveling everybody up, early on it's actually pretty easy. There's plenty of enemies in various different places that you could farm out XP. You could go to enemies that aren't as tough or don't hit as hard and be able to destroy them and gather all the XP that you need to boost up your characters enough to get through either story sections or finish up optional quests, which are really mostly fetch quests. There's not really a whole lot of like optional quests that are like big giant fights or big boss fights. Again, with the exception of a few with like Cooler and stuff. But when it comes to later on, when you're actually trying to finish everything in the game, and you want to level everybody up to max level, that's when things get a little bit tedious. Towards the later portions of the game, once you finish the main story, and you're trying to boost up everybody's levels, it can be harder to find those like grind spots that give enough EXP without taking forever just to gain one level. Like there's a couple locations I could think of like in the mountains or in the tropical island section near the Kame house that gives you enemies in abundance, like big groups of enemies that give you decent amount of experience. It does take a while to get to level 50, which is the max level with everybody, and if you haven't been grinding with every single character, you're going to be at it for quite a long time. The other thing I do want to note is that once you finish the main story, you can't use Goku anymore. Now, I get it, narratively, that makes sense because of what happens in the anime, and we got to set things up for the next game, which is going to cover the Buu Saga. However, as far as a game is concerned, if I was still playing with Goku and I wasted a bunch of capsules on him to boost up his power for the story, why not still just let me use him? Even if you have to give him the little halo over his head, it would have been nice to at least still have that option, or maybe unlock another character to replace Goku, like Krillian, like Tien Shinhan, or like Yamcha or something. But just taking away that character, which again is the namesake of the game, is just kind of a stupid decision to me. I know it's a little nitpick, but I think many of you out there would agree with me that you probably would have appreciated that still being an option. So, whether you're a big DBZ fan or not, does this game still offer a great experience? Can I recommend that you play Dragon Ball Z: The Legacy of Goku II for the Game Boy Advance? I would say yeah, because this game is easy to get into, and it covers everything you need to know from the anime without being too jumbled. Will it turn you into a Dragon Ball fan? Probably not, but it's a perfect story for an RPG, covering a lot of ground from the anime. The combat and the exploration is very solid. It's challenging enough to enjoy without being too restrictive, despite a few difficulty spikes. In my opinion, this is one of the better action RPGs on the GBA, so you should definitely look into playing it when you can. And there you go, everyone. Those are my thoughts about Dragon Ball Z: The Legacy of Goku II. This game is awesome. It's really fun and interesting, even if you're not a big fan of DBZ. Its predecessor is absolute trash. Nobody really talks about that game for good reason, but this is one of those anime-based or franchise-based games that I feel like you could give to a newbie and give it to someone that's never interacted with the anime or the manga, and they can really get into it and might quite possibly turn them into a Dragon Ball fan, which I think is great, especially for a franchise that's been around for so long, has been overhyped by many people, or has been kind of like overplayed in many like forms. But still, it's awesome to see that we at least get like great games like this that do something interesting or unique, not too like revolutionary, but just very solid in what it's trying to accomplish. But as always, like with any game that I review on this channel, that's just my thoughts about the Legacy of Goku 2. Let me know some of your thoughts about this game down below in the comment section. Tell me, are you a big DBZ fan? Do you like playing other Dragon Ball related games like Budokai or Tenkaichi or any of those games? What are some of your favorite Dragon Ball characters? And what are some of the types of games you want to see Dragon Ball kind of get into? We've got fighting games, we got RPGs, we got action adventure games, but what is it that Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball in general hasn't done yet? Talk to me about that stuff down below in the comments section. This channel is sponsored by Flynn's Arcade and More, located in Margate, Florida. Flynn's is one of the premier spots for gaming fans in South Florida. They have a variety of arcade games on cabinet for you to play throughout the week, including all of your beloved classics. You could also play a ton of new and current console games too, on PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo consoles. Grab a snack or drink and enjoy the best gaming experience you'll find. Visit during one of their many big events to connect with the gaming community in South Florida. Want to test your skills in competitive fighting games? Join any of the weekly tournaments that happen at Flynn's for a chance for some cool prizes. And if you're into tabletop gaming or model kit building, there's a bunch of events there for you too. Swing by Flynn's Arcade and More, located in Margate Boulevard in Margate, Florida. You won't find a better spot than Flynn's. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it enough to hit that like button and post a comment down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel too for more gaming videos like this and lots of other great content to watch. It helps out the channel a ton. Don't forget you could join my Discord server too to join up with the community to talk about games and so much more. You'll absolutely love it. Thanks again, peace out, and stay epic, everyone.